All aboard for the latest episode of 310 to Left. I'm Alex Speier from the Boston Globe, and as you can see, fearless conductor Tom Karen is off for this episode on special assignment. His whereabouts are little more than rumor. There have been reports that Tom has been seen in the woods with a chainsaw, and other claims that he's been on the open seas. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle, but either way, we expect and hope that Tom will be back next week, and one day we'll have him actually on camera in that captain's hat. In the meantime, I'll do my best to fill the void as we take stock of a Red Sox team that keeps finding its way to 500. And entering Tuesday's series against Atlanta, they're 30-30, which I think is like the 13th time this year that the Red Sox have won and lost exactly the same number of games. Obviously, they've also struggled against their best opponents thus far this year. They're now just 7-18 against teams with a record of 500 or better, and eventually that's going to have to change if they want to be more than a team that's kind of stuck in the middle and a team that wants to. If they want to be a team that proves itself postseason worthy, they're going to have to be better against top opponents like Atlanta and some other teams such as the Yankees that are going to be coming up in the near future, along with Philadelphia. Maybe we shouldn't be shocked by this progression of the season to date, the idea that it's been 1 foot forward and then 1 foot backwards, given that the Red Sox are one of the youngest teams in baseball. So through Sunday, they've had 9 separate occasions in which they've had every member of the lineup being under the age of 30. And there have been another 25 games in which the Red Sox have had all but one member of their lineup being under the age of 30. So they're obviously extremely young, which probably helps to explain a lot of the reason why we've seen a lot of performance inconsistency, along with the fact that at this current moment in time, the opening day third, fourth, fifth, and sixth hitters have all been on the injured list, which has kind of further reinforced the cycle of the Red Sox having a bunch of young players taking on roles that are maybe a bit larger than what you might have expected from them at this stage of this career. So all of that means that the Red Sox, in order to be good, have an enormous need to help their young players develop and really to have all of their players develop as they're at the big league season. At the big league level. The front office and the coaching staff have worked to create a lot of structures to help that process. There are currently weekly meetings that are occurring between the front office members and members of the coaching staff, along with Alex Cora, Craig Breslow, to discuss 3 to 4 pitchers and 3 to 4 position players every week in order to create, revise, and evaluate specific development plans for every player on the roster at least once a month. This is a kind of interesting formal structure that I haven't seen the Red Sox conducting before. I wrote about it a little bit in the Boston Globe earlier this week. But the process of development isn't just happening top down from the manager or from the front office. It's also occurring for the Red Sox on a player-to-player basis. And that's one of the more fascinating things that I've been watching about how this early part of the Red Sox season is taking place. That it's not just, the players aren't just dependent upon coaches, but they are talking to each other more than I've ever seen, or at least more than I've seen in recent years, really taking the time to digest games after the fact, maybe more than at least among the young players who are engaged in this kind of high-level discussion to figure out areas where they could have done things differently and what they wouldn't want to repeat, mistakes that they might have made, areas to clean up. So today on 310 to Left, we're going to welcome a player who's had a significant role in that process, a significant voice in the process of talking amongst his peers, among his fellow players, and that's Rob Refsnyder. Rob is in his 3rd year with the Red Sox, and he's having an excellent season at the plate, hitting .337 with a .933 OPS, but his contributions extend well beyond what he's doing as an outfielder and as a DH this year. So that's a subject that we'll explore right now in episode 11 of 310 to Left. And joined this week on 310 to Left by Red Sox outfielder Rob Refsnyder. Rob, thanks so much for joining. It is fantastic to have you. And let's get right into it. You're in amidst one of the best seasons of your career, right? You're off to a terrific start, even one that was a little bit slowed by a broken toe. You are also amidst a great stretch with the Red Sox. In your 3rd year, you've hit .286, .382 on base percentage, .419 slug with the Red Sox. So explain this to me. There are well-known cases of mid-career transformations, and you've been teammates with a guy like Justin Turner, who established himself really and where his career was going in his 30s. What goes into that? Like, how is it that you have that you've kind of explored and achieved this different level of success in your 30s?
Yeah, let me let me think. Probably some really good player development, honestly. But also the willingness to try some new things when you recognize, hey, what I'm doing isn't working. So yeah, so a lot of that. But yeah, some really good player development. I probably thinking around maybe 2019. Had kind of like a crossroads. Um, my son's actually knocking on the door right now. This is pretty funny. He just woke up from
Welcome
his
him
nap.
on. All are welcome in the 310 to left family.
But yeah, probably right around 2019. Met some really good coaches. Some hitting coordinator by Cody Atkinson kind of opened my mind to some different ideas, and then yeah, I kind of went on from there.
How hard is that to make a mid-career adjustment? Like, I assume that there are kind of mechanical things, kind of significant mechanical things that you're exploring at that point, right? Like in 2019 had been a tough year for you. At that point, you were with, I want to say that you had just wrapped up with the Reds, who were your fourth organization, right? Like you had gone Yankees, you had been with the Blue Jays, you had been with Tampa Bay, you'd then been the Reds. The Reds one seemed like it was a little bit of a tough one to grab a foothold. But how hard is it to think like, okay, I've done these things for at that point probably like 27, 26, 27 years of your life, and now I'm going to explore something entirely different.
Yeah, I guess you kind of have to get to a point where like you're okay if it doesn't work out. And I had definitely come to grips with, I've tried a lot of different things. I've kind of tried it my way or the way that my body's been used to. So that and I guess meeting some people that you really trust that kind of have seems like your best interest in mind, and you can tell that they care about your development. So I definitely was. I was ready. I was ready. If baseball didn't work out, then you kind of move on. So I had come to grips with I was tired of being really bad at the major league level. um, yeah, and kind of went from there.
What were you going to move on to? Like, what was had you thought what Plan B would have been had this like kind of run where you've solidified yourself as a major leaguer not occurred at that point in your life?
I definitely could not have been a hitting coach at that point because no one would have no one would have trusted me or believed me. Um, yeah, I don't know. That I guess that's a great question because I don't know. I was comfortable maybe taking a year off and figuring out what financially what would be best, you know, passion wise. But yeah, I definitely had come to around 2019, 20. I enjoyed player development though, front office
Hmm.
stuff, but yeah, definitely could not have been a hitting coach at that point.
Could you be one now? Like, and obviously you're nowhere close to that point, right? Like you are, as mentioned, just a moment ago, you're amidst one of the most productive stretches of your career, and so that doesn't you don't need to be thinking about Plan B right now. But how different do you feel? How much different do you feel in terms of understanding what it is to be a major league hitter, and the adjustments that need to be made, as well as understanding how to explain those to other people?
Hitting coach is probably one of the worst jobs in
Terrible.
sport.
It's terrible
I
right
joke
now. Like, it's impossible.
I joke all the time with our hitting department, like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to torture yourself with such a hard task? And what the fan must know is that, you know, you can celebrate some players who are doing well, but there's also half the team that's literally feels like you have no idea what you're doing up there. You question everything that you're doing. So you're you you can't ever be super satisfied or happy as a hitting coach because there's a lot of guys who are really struggling. And I mean, the fans must know we don't take this lightly. It's not, it's our livelihood to try to hit something um, as difficult it is to a as a baseball. So it's super challenging. I don't think I'd want to put myself through that. Um, but I do enjoy the challenge of game planning and hitting and things like that. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to. It's such a hard job, and these guys work so hard, and they care so much, and it's man, you have to give so much respect to hitting coaches because the job security as a hitting coach, I mean, that's just it's not a great living.
No, no, and it was especially at a time when like you're seeing record low offenses, or at least since they lowered the mound, since they introduced the DH, it's as hard to score runs as it's been. So I'm with you; it's an impossible task, and one that's very difficult to coach. So Rob, one of the really interesting things to watch this season has been kind of the way that it's that there's been an evolution in the clubhouse where just to set the scene a little bit, your locker is in the back corner of the clubhouse next to Trevor Story's. Obviously, Trevor isn't around, hasn't been around that much this season while undergoing surgery and now rehabbing in California, working crazy hard in order to try to come back as the best version of himself in 2025. But with him being gone, this interesting thing has been happening in the Red Sox clubhouse where like you have this almost wall of boxes that separates your corner from the rest of the clubhouse, and like guys just seem like they're gravitating towards it at the end of games, and you guys seem to be talking through the games. Maybe not. Maybe you haven't jumped into the world of hitting coach, but tell me about Ref's Corner and what's happening back there. How it's come about that you have guys popping over there after games and what you guys are discussing.
Yeah, like we were talking about, I am closer to Trevor, and I was definitely looking forward to sharing that little corner with Trevor. He's definitely a guy I've admired over the years, but to be able to share a locker, it's such a it's we're in the clubhouse so much, so it would have been awesome to get even closer with Trevor. But yeah, it's kind of created a little bit of a corner. But I'm really really close with Connor. It's been really really fun watching him over these past 3 years just grow as a ball player and as a just as a person, as a dad. I mean, he's got an awesome son. He's just the cutest thing ever. But yeah, I mean Connor. Not to kind of blow Connor up, but he definitely he enjoys the scotch. I've been trying to get
Man of
into it a little
distinction.
bit. Yeah, trying to get into it. He's been trying to teach me a couple things, but in 2019 when I was kind of going through that a little bit of a hitting transformation, I played in Louisville in AAA, which was a lot of fun. It's and Learned a lot about bourbon. Probably too much about bourbon, especially
Be
being
aware
in
of your
AAA.
surroundings. Good for you.
Yeah, so but just talking to guys like Veritek and some other guys around, I guess that kind of era of baseball, people weren't in such of a rush to go home, and uh, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think sometimes it's great to kind of digest the game right after it's fresh. Just talk through at bats. For example, Connor had bases loaded last game. Bases loaded. Maybe it was the ninth inning, I think. And he was, I don't know if he was second guessing whether to swing 2-0 or not, but he flew out to the track, and I said, absolutely not. We're just talking through the game and learning from Connor, pitch calling and other things like that. But other guys come in, and Jaron, I'm really close with Jaron. Jaron will come in and talk about his game, his at bats. So it's been fun, just kind of Pavetta, Crawford, just some of the guys just come and just talk about the game and learn from each other, and then whether it was a good game or bad game, kind of just flush it and then move on. But it's been fun, just getting to know the guy. I mean, it's my third year, but just even getting to know some of the younger guys, um, even on road trips and things like that. We've spent a lot more time this year, I feel like, than in years past, and the young guys, I hope feel as included as some of the other guys.
So to me, Rob, this whole thing is that whole dynamic is really cool because like you are a young man, right? Like you're 33 years old. That's not old, right? You're way younger than Turner was last year. At the same time, you're the oldest
Sorry,
position.
Justin.
Yeah, I know, I know. We all love JT, but at the same time, you're the oldest member of the position player group this year. And about once a week, you guys are rolling out a lineup that features every member under 30 years old. How helpful do you think it is, given the relative youth of the team, given that you have a bunch of guys who are, year one, year two of their big league careers, to be able to have that kind of dynamic where you're digesting the game and really kind of talking through it as you are seeing it on the field?
Yeah, to be honest, they're doing a great job on their own though too, and it's been fun watching them. Just eager to learn, but Devers is doing an amazing job of including the younger guys in dinners and some outings and things like that. He's definitely, I mean, on the field, he's such an incredible guy to watch. But just to watch him this year, some team dinners and things like that. But he's really taken guys like Valdez under his wing, Abreu, Rafaela. But he's also, you know, I think just the other night it was a couple of those guys and Wong and Reese and myself and it's just cool to see somebody who's had that much success in his career, um, you know, really make an effort to include everyone in these dinners and so it's been fun watching and getting to know Rafi on a little bit more of a other than playing with him and things like that. So he's been a incredible leader this year, and we all look up to him and kind of follow his lead.
Um, in terms of some of your younger teammates, like the other part that's cool about teammates helping teammates is there's like reassurance there, right? Like it's okay to struggle. It's okay to struggle while getting your footing. But I don't know. To me, I think that it's been very interesting to watch kind of this quote unquote generation of players arriving in the big leagues because I do think that you have players who are really hard on themselves at times in ways that can be in ways that first of all shows that they care like crazy, right? Like there is, like guys will beat them when you see someone beating themselves up, it's because they care about being really, really good and they hold themselves to a high standard for themselves, for their teammates, for the fan base. At the same time, you do worry about the well-being of guys and how and whether or not struggles when players beat themselves up can kind of mushroom. How do you see the dynamics of the clubhouse as they currently, and what it's like to be a young player? Kind of if you think back to this experience that you're watching in front of you, as opposed to the one you experienced back when arriving in the big leagues in 2015, 2016. What do you see?
Yeah, I think in this generation, there's a lot more highs and there's a lot more lows. And I say that probably because of social media. As great as social media is, if you flip on Instagram, you see the highest of highs of highlights, and then you see guys who, they blow the game or whatever it is. And, this is kind of a flash of, it's not really the game. It's just the best moments of the game and, human error. So I think you see a lot more of that flash. And I think now guys are just a kind of accustomed to that. And instead of, you know, you're around the game every day, you're in the booth every day, you see the whole game and you see the story of the game, that particular game. And, when you're watching highlights, you just see the best and the worst. So I think guys sometimes grade themselves on that, which is unfair. And just, I mean, I love Boston. I love the market of Boston. And I feel like if you just tell the truth to as much as you can and you play hard and you do your best no matter what, I feel like the fan base will respect that. And if you stand up and say I made a mistake, the city of Boston will respect that. The city doesn't like excuses, and it's a hardworking city. It's a hard city, and I think if you just go about it like that, the city for the most part will just have your back. I think if you look at a guy like Jaron, the way he plays, to watch the city of Boston kind of come around him and embrace him. And I mean, there's a lot of Jarren Duran jerseys when I walk around Fenway and see around Fenway. So that's been really, really cool to see just how much the fan base kind of appreciates how hard he plays, how exciting of a ball player he is. So I guess I think the players are as hard as they ever have been on themselves, and it's probably because of social media. Um, and I don't think it's going to get much better. I think it's just kind of the way it is, and guys are going to have to learn how to handle it. But having guys like Tristan, like Jarren, um, like Tanner, these younger type guys who have gone through a lot in the city, to have the younger generation, to have guys like that to lean on and talk to, which they are. Um, it has been fun to watch, and just I think the team is going to be in a great place for the next few years, just based off some leadership and just a younger core kind of developing. I feel like the fan base should be pretty excited about that because these guys generally like each other. They spend time with each other, and they want the best from each other. It's not, sometimes people say that, but you can really see it forming. Um, and I think they'll be playing winning baseball long after I'm done. I mean, shoot, I'll be chasing my kids around the backyard, and they'll still be playing baseball. I'll be long gone, but it'll be fun to watch those guys just turn into a really fun core for the next few years in Boston.
I don't know. You probably shouldn't assume that, given that your career arc is going this way into your 30s. So who knows? Maybe you'll still be playing into your 40s after after Jaron and Tristan retire. But it is interesting hearing you talk about what the environment is like now. You were part of an interesting kind of pivotal moment for the Yankees organization when when it was like you were kind of on the front end of the baby bombers, right? Like when you came up in 2015, and then there was Judge and Gary Sanchez coming up in 16 along with you, when the Yankees identity was going from being this very veteran organization to being one that was kind of reestablishing itself, and hitting another gear based on these young contributors. And you were initially part of that. You also had some struggles with that, right? Like you burst onto the scene. You were kind of the first hope of it in 2015. Kind of uneven performance over the next couple of years. How much do you draw on that experience when looking at this group? How much and what was that like, being a part of the excitement of a coming wave, a coming group, a coming core of a kind of storied franchise?
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting comparison. It's very similar in terms of the market. The city of New York, the city of Boston, they just expect winning teams. They expect a great product every year. And I remember those first few years in New York, it felt very similar. It was kind of the era of Jeter had just retired in 14, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a new, I feel like the Yankees were still trying to compete, but also develop. It was like this, like you said, a foreign kind of time, and it it was amazing learning from some of those veterans. I mean, sometimes I look back at my first couple of years, and I'm like, wow, I was in the same clubhouse as some of those guys. How amazing and intimidating at the same time, to be honest. So yeah, just pretty similar, Obviously, the fan base knows that the past couple of years haven't been is up to par in the city of Boston and what the Red Sox expect. You're developing this young core, and there's a lot more mistakes being made than I'm sure the fan base wants. But I think for those diehard fans, you're kind of seeing those guys take the next level. I mean, if you think about the defense early on in the year and what it is now, and watching Rafael bounce from shortstop to center field, and Abreu and Jaron, those two combined have, I think, created the most defensive runs saved in baseball in the outfield. Uh, So, and Tristan's been on the you kind of can go down the line and see that young core forming. But yeah, looking back at my first couple of years in New York, it's very similar. Just guys trying to find their footing at the major league level in the AL East. It's not for the faint of heart.
Not easy. Along those lines, like it's worth you were around Judge when he was coming up, right? Like, and obviously a massive, literally and figuratively talent. But also someone who you saw up close those struggles that he had when dropped into the major league environment for the first time, right? Where it was like a 45% strikeout rate in 2016. Did you have any idea what Aaron Judge was going to be, and what did you learn about watching his transition to the big leagues?
Yeah, it is remarkable to watch. Probably, I mean, the best, one of the best of my generation. Um, Having some memories with him going through the minors and things like that, and watching him develop. So I mean, watching him is kind of why I'm so, I guess, passionate about player development or hard work. I mean, no one's a finished product when they get to the major leagues, especially now, with all how much information there is, and you're going to get exposed if you have some major holes in your game, and you're going to be celebrated if you do some things well. So watching Aaron go through that year and then completely devote his whole off season to hitting and that craft was special, and to see him get rewarded for all that hard work. And I don't think people realize how many micro little adjustments he makes throughout the season. Even this year, I think, I don't know if we're talking about it enough, but the adjustments he's made, I don't know personally, but just watching his games and things like that, the huge difference in batting stance from early in the year to this year, from his MVP season. I mean, it's remarkable how many adjustments he makes and how he's just willing to make those adjustments. And I think young players can learn from that. Just because you got to the major leagues, or just because you had some success for even a year or a month or two, um, you're probably going to have to make more and more adjustments. And surrounding yourself with people that you trust, player development wise, is huge. Whether it's in your organization or if you have somebody you trust outside of the organization. But yeah, I mean, Aaron's just a great example of what hard work and player development can accomplish.
So along those lines, like you have seen this development arc with with a super talent like Judge, and what a ridiculous month he just finished up. But I'd love to get your kind of like quick thoughts, your surface level thoughts on a few of your current young teammates. What you see now, where you see them being now, where what you think they can become based on your interest in that idea of development. So let's start with Sedan, who you've referenced a couple of times. What do you see now? What do you think he'll become?
Yeah, to watch him up close, the first time I saw him was I was rehabbing in Double A, and Kike was playing center field, I think, and he was
Mm-hmm.
playing shortstop, and he made a couple amazing plays at shortstop. I came in the dugout. I was like, "This guy's unbelievable at shortstop! Like, what a special like." And they're like, "Oh no, Rob! Like, you haven't seen this kid until he's played center field." And I was like, oh, "Okay." And then I saw him in spring training, and then obviously this year, he makes like 5% catch probabilities look. He makes them standing up at times. So it's hard to, as a fan, unless you're at the game, or watch a lot of the game on television and things like that, it's hard to appreciate it. But I mean, it's glimpses of Jackie in center field, and he's got an incredible arm, and then hitting his I mean, just electric bat speed and movements. Um, I mean, it's hard to even put a ceiling on a player like that. It's just how much he can impact the game. I, eh, you know, a couple time all star, like game changer. I feel so blessed and thankful that he's our nine hitter. Because every time, even when he was not getting the results he wanted, to watch his at bats in the nine hole, you're like, something special could happen every at bat, and you don't see that very often at the major league level, especially in the 9 hole. So it's he's going to win a couple Gold Gloves probably. He could. I mean, it's and he's a really nice guy, man. He's you know I'm very thankful I've been able to watch him play defense and watching him develop. He's made some great adjustments offensively, so it's been fun to watch.
Jaron Duran.
This one means a lot. I mean, just seeing from 22 to now. I mean, he's played every day. He's one of the clubhouse leaders. Guys look up to him. Guys seek out his advice. He's just a complete ball player. I mean, he kind of makes me think of those gritty Boston players when I was growing up. He's kind of fitting into that mold, and watching the fan base like we were talking about earlier in the show, really just kind of embrace him and bring him on. It's been really special and fun to watch, and he probably is the best position player on our team right now, statistically, WAR wise, and he'd be the first one to say that there's a lot more left in the tank. I know he's been working through some adjustments really hard with Rosie, and it's incredible to see what he's done, but also what we know he's capable of doing. I think he's got a month or two of just some absolutely mind-baffling baseball coming up. Just the way he creates havoc on the base pass, and people don't give him enough credit for his defense. I mean, you look at his defense right now; it is. I mean, I think he's second in baseball in defensive runs saved, and I mean it's pretty cool to watch. And I think he's going to be a couple-time All-Star, and he's going to be playing some playoff baseball, and he plays up to the moment for sure.
How about a guy who's, I think, unique in terms of my experience of covering young players coming up, Tristan Casas?
Man, I love Tristan. He is unapologetically himself, which is super refreshing in our game. You don't see that very often. I think what really stands out to me is how much he really loves the game of baseball, his routines. He just to see somebody that professional at that age is really special. Man, I mean, I'm really looking forward to when we get his at bats back in the lineup. They're really just a joy to watch. You, there's not many people in the big leagues on a day-to-day basis. You kind of look. I was talking to him about it the other day. His at bats always have a story. It's just not. They're not random.
Yeah.
You can always tell at the end of the day what he was looking for, whether it was the zone or the pitch, the speed, what part of the field he wanted to hit it to. He just always has a story in his at bats, and it's really scary to think about once he learns more how pitchers are really going to be throwing at him when he gets older, how much his offensive game is he going to get even better. And he's such a special hitter, and he was our best hitter for the second half of last year, and defensively he works his tail off too. So yeah, he's going to be an expensive young man.
Yeah, he stands out because like you usually see a rookie, like rookies kind of like the performance flashes early and then it tails off as the league gets a book on him, and he was the opposite, which to me is like, oh, that's interesting. Like when he's making the adjustment to the league, he's getting the upper hand quickly, which was that was kind of eye opening, I think. I want to kind of steer this in a kind of in a little bit of a different direction as we get close to wrapping up. So you obviously have a really nuanced perspective on teammates that could serve you well in with whatever you decide to do. If you decide that you want, after your playing days are done when you retire at age 45, then whether you want to be in development or on a coaching staff. How much are you taking notes on, like, along the way, whether it's on teammates or from coaches or from like AC, about as you like kind of create opportunities and lines that are going to extend beyond your playing career?
Yeah, I I definitely take notes, and I've been around some great managers and some coaches, and I think it's really cool to see how much of an impact the coaching staff can make just on the day-to-day feelings in the clubhouse, series to series, month to month. It's a huge difference. I don't think people really give enough credit to the coaching staffs. You see managers, pitching coach, hitting coaches sometimes get a lot of the blame, but we're around each other so much throughout the day. Just creating a good working environment in the sense of like guys are eager to get to the field, work on their craft, and then get ready to try to win a baseball game. It's exhausting. It really is, and it's a challenge to motivate people, because of how much failure there is in our game. It's hard to wake up every day and knowing you're probably going to get your ass kicked, hitting wise or on the mound. It's such a tough sport. You have to be so mentally in tune and mentally tough. And to see really great coaches bring out the best in their players, even when they don't believe in themselves, sometimes it's been fun. I think of like Francona comes to mind. Um, Rob Thompson with the Yankees. He's the Phillies manager now. He was my first bench coach. Cockrell, he was one of my first hitting coaches with the Yankees. Kind of just go down the line of people that were really influential in keeping me in the game when there was some lows and things like that, and just motivating you to, hey, like you're 0 for your last 12, but maybe the light's at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing. So it's a lot of notes of if I were to get into coaching or managing, you just try to have your own style, but you also pick and choose from some of the I mean, Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good starting point. I'll wrap up with this since you mentioned the light at the end of the tunnel. You have struck me as someone who's been able to exhibit like a healthy optimism about a lot of things. You strike me as glass half full, or maybe when it comes to scotch, at least like quality,
Yeah.
something quality in the glass, right? Along those lines, the big picture of where this season has taken you guys. You're 60 games into the season. You guys keep dancing around 500, 500, 500, like a little bit above, like then maybe couple games, then getting right back to 500. You haven't really dropped below, right? You guys have done a good job of establishing that floor, I think, through the first 60 games of the season. But where do you see yourself? Where do you see this team, the 2024 Red Sox, being, and where do you see it going from this point?
Man, it's we feel like we've already been through so much through what 60 games, whether it's position changes, injuries. I mean, a lot of injuries, but guys establishing themselves kind of in their roles, which is cool to see. The starting pitching has been very stable, excellent. I mean, to keep us in those games. Offensively, we need to do a better job putting the ball in play. We were talking about the other day, just trying to make those adjustments. Um, but I mean, to get Tristan's bat back eventually, that'll be humongous. Getting Masataka's bat back is humongous. O'Neill's on the IL; he should be back relatively soon. So some of our main big parts of our lineup are coming back soon, and then you know watching the young guys take that next step, like Rafaela. I don't think David Hamilton gets enough credit with it. I mean, I think I saw it flashed on the scoreboard the other day that he's leading AL rookies in batting average. His
Wow.
defense has been really special as of late. Base pass he create. I mean, if Hamilton and Rafael are batting 8-9 for us, that's pretty. And then Jaron's leading us off. So yeah, am I optimistic about the outlook of the season? I am. Are we going to have to play better? Hell yeah. Um, but I do think we have the pieces to make the postseason, and we're just gonna have to get a little bit healthier and get better. Honestly, like no excuses. We're gonna have to hit better with guys in scoring position. Um, we're gonna have to keep growing and learning and just get better. And I feel like fans don't want to hear you're young. They just want to hear you're getting better and you're winning ball games. And I mean, if I was a fan, that's kind of what I'd want to hear. So behind the scenes, I think you got a young group that is doing just that. And you're doing it in a very, very tough division. So you got to strap it on every day and get to work. But I think we're 3.5 games back, so we got our work cut out for us. And yeah, I mean, you know how it is. We're gonna have to go on a run. We're gonna have to, win a lot of series, and we're gonna have to go on a run and keep getting better. That's it.
Well, it's surely you guys are getting a lot of thunder back in the lineup, but you're going to have to tell them that in order to reclaim, if any of them wants to take the 3 spot back, they're going to have to out hit someone who's posting a 337 average with a 900 plus OPS right now. Rob, this has been awesome. You should, and you're welcome. I feel like we've given you a perfect demo reel for your future, for any future interviews that you'll have in baseball, for that post playing career that's starting in 10 years or so. So you're welcome. But yes, I think that this conversation says a ton about why you are going to be very much in demand for a long career in the game. But one that after whenever you decide that you're no longer going to keep playing and hitting 337 and posting a 900 plus OPS.
Well, I have to, because stay-at-home dad's not going to work. I just noticed right next to me is a half-eaten carrot for my kids that I haven't cleaned up yet. So, yeah, I don't think stay-at-home dad's going to be.
If you only have one piece of partially chewed food, you're winning the organization game. You can solve hitting if that's the case.
I'm looking around. There's a couple more, Alex. So I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll keep that between us. But Rob, thanks so much for joining 310 to Left, and best of luck moving forward. Hope you have a blast catching up with some old friends from the Braves.
Definitely. Okay. See you, Alex. Appreciate it.